Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Caverns studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, well, Lost Caverns of Ixalan is now officially out, and therefore, we're starting to see some actual prices for cards. I mean, we do see prices in the, spoiler season time before the actual set comes out, but those pre-sales, sometimes cards are a bit overinflated, sometimes they aren't, taken seriously enough, and their prices go up or down. So now we kind of have a better baseline when it comes to what these cards are. So on this episode, let's talk about the top 10 most expensive cards so far from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. So let's start things off at number 10 with Quorus Con. Well, this one is, $5.28. So just a little bit outside of my budget range, but might be within yours. For starting loyalty, Quorus, Planeswalker, obviously. 5 mana in total in Boros. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, it's going to deal 2 damage to each opponent, and you gain 2 life. +1, get a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. -3, discover 4. -6, exile any number of cards from your graveyard. Add red for each card exiled this way. You may play those cards this turn. So, Quorus has a lot going on, being the only Planeswalker from this set. And I will mention, no reprints were counted in this. So, like, Caverns of Souls is not on this list, okay? That does not count. And also not the, this is the main set, okay? Not the pre-guns too. Regardless, Quorus, this gives you, well, of course, a way to say, hey, do you like Impulse Draw? If you do, or, casting from exile for other reasons, like, Discover, or casting, with Cascade, let's punish your opponents. Let's ping each of them. Let's gain some life as well. We can make a good amount of spirits and make an army. On top of that, we have Discover 4, so we can do that to pair that really well. Some good card advantage right there in free casting. And of course, speaking of free casting, getting a lot out of your graveyard and a lot of mana from that, and then casting those things as well. So yeah, definitely. I mean, when it comes to Commander, obviously, Super Friends is the place where this might land, or in a deck that actually cares about, again, Impulse Draw, those types of effects. So Quorus, currently at 10th place again at $5.28. Moving on to 9th place, and yes, this is a different version because this is pulling in the least expensive version of each card, just to be fair to all the cards. Tishana's Tidebender, $7.18, 3/2 Merfolk Wizard with Flash that costs 3 mana in total in blue. When it enters the battlefield, counter up to 1 target activated triggered ability. If an ability of an artifact creature Planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as Tishana's Tidebender re-enters the battlefield. This, when it comes to a commander, can be quite mean against, commanders. Because many commanders out there have activated and triggered abilities, or I should say. And by shutting that down, well, you can say, hey, no, you don't get that activation or trigger at all right away. And also, unless you deal with this, you're not getting it. And of course, this can work really well in a blink deck, potentially, where you could potentially, cloud shift it in response to something to get that trigger again, or bounce it back to your hand, redo it. So yeah, a good way to shut things down again, especially in certain decks. So yeah, there's a reason why this one is currently $7.18. Again, good enough for 9th place. But now let's move on to 8th place with Oer Axel, Deepest Might at $7.80, a 4/4 Legend Creature God with Trample that costs 4 mana in total. If a red source you control deal damage, an amount of non-combat damage, I should say, less than Oer Axel's power to an opponent, that source deals damage equal to power instead, dies like the other gods, flip it over and have it tapped as the Temple of Power, a land that can tap for a red, pay 2 and a red, tap, transform it. Only if red sources you control dealt 4 more non-combat damage this turn as a sorcery. Shouldn't be hard. Again, if you have a deck built around this commander, it's very easy to meet that requirement to flip it back over. So this is pretty hard to deal with. And on top of that, yeah, I mean, very spicy things can happen. Obviously, if you say, hey, I've got a bunch of pinging effects that are like 1 damage, at the very least, they go to 4. Or, if they got a Blackblade or Forge or something that can pump this commander, it can be an absurd amount. So yeah, every single one of your tiny little pings can be an absurd amount of damage. Yeah, these gods are quite spicy. There's a reason why this one is $7.80. Again, good enough for 8th place. Moving on at 7th place, though, we've got the Bloodletter of Aklazotz. We'll see if Aklazotz itself will make the list. Who knows? Anyways, I guess I know because I've seen the list. Anyways, $10.09, a 2/4 Vampire Demon flying that costs 4 mana in total. If an opponent loses life during their turn, or during your turn, I should say, they lose twice that much life instead. brutal. These kind of life loss doubling effects are incredible in Commander. Now, keep in mind, this one's just for your turn, but still, that of course, counts combat. That takes, hey, you swing through with this. Of course, I mean, it's got flying, swing through this and all your other things. Get damage on your opponents. They're going to lose life. They're going to lose twice as much life, essentially. Also, Zulfort Cutthroat type effects, those Aristocrat draining type effects. Any way that your opponents are losing life, you are doubling that up, and that is absolutely incredible. It's very valuable for many decks out there. Apparently, the value is, well, around $10 for this card. So, yeah, good enough for 7th place. Next up, though, number 6, we've got the Skull Sport Nexus. Yeah, not surprised to see this one on the list. $10.35. So again, pre-sale prices, this was around $40 or so. So yeah, things drop when the actual set comes out. Sometimes some cards go up. Regardless, a Ledger Artifact for 8 mana in total, but you're never going to cast it for that amount. It's going to cost X less to cast for X the Grace Power and creatures you control. So again, if you've got a deck that's got creatures with a decent amount of power, which if you're playing a deck with this in it, you probably do, you can usually just cast this for just 2 mana. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control die, you get a green fungus dinosaur creature with base power does each equal to the total power of those creatures. So essentially, well, hey, if your opponents take out your creatures, maybe with a board wipe, you just get a massive creature, an absurdly massive creature. Actually, Eddie and I talked about it on an episode and talked about how, yeah, hey, if a player just demolishes the board and you had enough power on there, 20 or more power essentially total, you get a 20 power dinosaur fungus thing, and then you just pay 2 tap, double target creature's power until off turn, 1 shot an opponent. Yeah, very, very easy to do that. So a crazy good card when it comes to high power creature decks, and also just, hey, yeah, if you've got dinosaur tribal, I guess fungus tribal too, but more so dinosaur tribal, you can definitely utilize a card like this. So yeah, there's a reason why, again, a lot of dino decks out there, a lot of power matters decks out there too. $10.35, good enough for 6th place. But now let's move on to number 5 with Roaming Throne at $11.43. And here's the thing. This card, I don't like to say is an auto-include or, you have to have it for a tribal deck. But, hey, if you got the budget for it, yeah, a lot of players out there are probably going to be including this in many tribal decks out there. Let's just say that. Because this card can apply to an absurd amount of them. A 4/4 Golem with Ward 2 that costs 4, enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. It's also that creature type. And on top of that, if a triggered ability of another creature controlled the chosen type triggers additional time. An absurd card. Just absolutely absurd. I mean, basically, if you have a tribal deck, just look through the creatures of that tribe and how many of them have triggered abilities. Probably a lot. And many commanders have triggered abilities too. So essentially, hey, if you got a tribal deck that's built around a tribe with a decent amount of those triggers, this is an absurd card in that deck. And of course, even if you just have a commander that has a very powerful trigger, you can just utilize this in a non-tribal deck too and be like, okay, yeah, just pick whatever creature type my commander is and double that up and all of a sudden have an absurd effect. So yeah, I can see this price only going up. $11.43, again, good enough for 5th place. If we were to do this list again in a year and just look at what these cards' prices are, I'm going to guess that this one's going to be up there in the top few. So yeah, there you go. Roaming Throne, 5th place. But next up, we've got number 4 at $14.61. A very spicy card. Jamil, the Inner Sun, a Ledger Artifact for 6 that says spells you control can't be countered. So that's already very spicy. And on top of that, begin your end step, discover 5. So free value off the top of your library. Lots of fun to be had with that. Again, so this is a mythic for a reason. Again, making all your spells uncounterable. Again, just your spells, not your opponents. Uncounterable is huge. A massive effect saying, you know what? I just want to make sure I can do what I want to do. And what I want to do is cast free things off the top of my library that discover 5. So a lot of value to be had there. Again, decks that care about casting things from exile or other places absolutely love these kinds of effects. And also, everyone loves their spells not being countered. I mean, maybe there's someone out there that's just like, yeah, counter my spell. Thank you for doing that. Hooray! But probably not many. So yeah, a very good card. One that can definitely work in artifact decks out there. One that can work in, well, again, decks that care about casting from exile. One that can work in decks that just really don't want things countered. There you go. So yeah, good enough for 4th place, $14.61. But now we're moving on to 3rd place at $15.33. A 5/5 Dinosaur Dragon, because that's the thing with flying in first strike. Bone Horde Dracosaur for 5 mana in total. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. If you exile a land card this way, create a 3/1 red dinosaur creature token. If you exile a non-land card this way, create a treasure token. There's a lot of value to be had with this. Again, this is basically just great impulse draw. Again, top 2 cards of your library. Lovely. Not even like play one of them this turn. No, it's play either. Play both. Whatever you gotta do. Cool. And oh, by the way, you got a land or not land? Cool. You get things. You get either treasures or you get dinosaur tokens. So you get extra value on top of just getting the extra value of those cards off the top of your library. In this, say 5/5 flying for a strike. Wizard just throwing the entire kitchen sink at this card, essentially. Yeah, again, dinosaur decks, love it. Dragon decks, love it. Decks that like things from exile. Decks that like to make tokens. Decks that like treasures. Lots of options to be had there. So yeah, $15.33. With as many decks as this can fit in, no wonder it is that price. And again, good enough for 3rd place. But now let's move on to 2nd place at $18.15. Well, one of the biggest creatures in this set. 12 power Ghalta Stampede Tyrant. One of the biggest creatures of all time in Magic. Just consistently, right? Ghalta's like, hey, I'm always 12 power, which is a lot. 12/12 Elder Dinosaur Trample that costs 8 mana in total. When it enters the battlefield, put any of your creature cards in your hand on the battlefield. Okay, Wizards. I usually complain with you restricting cards. Now, I wouldn't have complained about this one if you were like, hey, if it was cast. Because my goodness, is this so easy to use and abuse, it is not even funny. I mean, hey, if you've got a reanimation style deck, cool. Just reanimate this out of your graveyard and be like, okay, cheat things out of my hand. Awesome. Again, that's like a 4-mana reanimation. So like a 4-mana Zombify will get you that. Oh, if you have a blink deck, cool. Blink this once. Get that effect again. If you've got a way to cheat and to play from your hand, cool. Do that. Get all the other creatures from your hand to play. This is just a win condition on a body being, well, a 12/12 Trampler, and also a win condition on ETB being like, hey, cheat all your things into play. So if you have a Dinosaur Trouble deck, great, utilize it. I mean, Ghalta can just get this off the top and just throw it into play for free, and then all of a sudden you just throw all the other dinosaurs in your hand to play for free. If you've got a big creature deck, great. If you've got a big mana deck with a lot of big creatures, great. Lots of ways to use and abuse this card. A very absurd card, again, in the 99, or as a commander, a really cool card, and a very powerful one. Yeah, not surprised this one's $18 and good enough again for 2nd place. But now the moment that you've all been waiting for, 1st place, and not surprisingly, at $21.85, and that price, I believe, will also be going up over time. Oer Axel, Deepest Foundation. Apparently this is the cheapest version of it. A 6/6 legendary creature con with vigilance for 6 mana in total. If one of our tokens are created under your control, creature tokens I should say, 3 times that many are created instead. Thank goodness that said creature tokens. Wizards, thank you for actually limiting that part of this card. Not that we really need a token tripler, but my goodness, that's gross. Making 3 times many creature tokens, yeah, that's just game-ending effect right there. Also, hey, if it dies, transform it tapped, flips over to a land. Taps for colors, or not colors, sorry, a white mana. Pay 2 and a white tap, transform it. Only if you can attack with 3 or more creatures this turn. Yeah, that's very easy for you to do again, because if you had made 1 creature token when you had your commander in play, or S card in the 99, we'll go over that in a second. Hey, you made 3 instead, so you can attack with them. You can flip this over quite easily. Very hard to deal with. Again, good as a commander, amazing as a card in the 99 for many decks out there that care about making creature tokens, of which there's an absurd amount. It's one of the most popular themes out there. So yeah, there's a reason why this card, which is the first one to ever triple up creature tokens, is so expensive. $21.81, good enough for 1st place. Again, congratulations, Oer Axel, Deepest Foundation. But now this episode is coming to a close. It's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on these cards. Which of these cards do you want to pick up? Which of these cards do you think is absurd? Which of these cards do you think is underpriced, overpriced right now? Let me know in the comments below. Check out the card list, link in the description below if you want to pick up any of these. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.